This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Be advised that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Welcome to our program this week, Journeys, Chronicles of our Asian Century, and we are, of course, chronicling the weekly developments in our region. These are very interesting times, but especially for this week, there are many events going on. And we will start in last August 26 with the Confucius Institute of the Ateneo seminar on the One Belt, One Road. And we can start rolling our short clip from the event. And our speaker at the Confucius Institute on the One Belt, One Road talks, which is held annually, starts, of course, with the introduction of the Confucius Institute here, explaining the language programs and the different activities. And of course, the speaker for this event is Dr. Zhao, who has over 15 years experience in the power industry. We will have Dr. Zhao on the screen in a little while. He has 15 years of experience in the power industry, having worked in China, Australia, and the Philippines. He worked for the State Grid of China Corporation and was involved in various aspects of the energy sector. Later on, Dr. Cynthia Liang of the Confucius Institute will be introducing him briefly, but I'm now giving the background. While our screen shows the director, one of the directors or one of the officials of the Confucius Institute explaining the different programs of the Confucius Institute. I'll continue with the introduction to Mr. Zhao Zhihao. Anyway, he has been with the China State Grid and has been involved in various aspects of the energy sector, which includes generation, construction, transmission, and renewable energy, among others. His research field includes the Asian region's energy market. He obtained his electrical engineering degree from the Henan University of Technology, his MBA from the North China Electrical Power University, and a PhD in management from De La Salle University here in the Philippines. And later on, we will go on to his talk. Let's listen to the presentation of our official from the Confucius Institute.
Good afternoon, CI friends. Welcome to Confucius Institute at the Ateneo, the Manila University. So today we are so glad I can introduce Dr. Zhao Zhihao here, the speaker of today. And right now, let me have a brief introduction of Dr. Zhao Zhihao. He has over 15 years working experience in the power industry. He has ever worked in China, Australia, and the Philippines, and engaged in energy sector. He has worked in the world's largest power contraction company for 2 years. He has researched the Asian region's energy market in deep study. He had also worked in China's largest power utility, SGCC, for many years. He graduated from the best electronic power university in China and also got his PhD in De La Salle University in the Philippines. And the topic of today is how does energy internet support the energy revolution? So let's give him a big applause. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Cynthia Liang is a very beautiful, as you can see, and a very competent doctor in education. And he's now writing a book with our local counterpart, a Filipino counterpart, about the Sultan of Sulu's journey to China. Now, briefly, since this is a 2-hour discussion by Dr. Zhao Zhihao, we'll just summarize it while we see some of the videos he had presented during the talk. Anyway, this in essence is what he presented. Quoting, "We must employ systematic thinking," he says, "comprehensively involve energy technology, generation, consumption, and institutions of governance simultaneously and fundamentally change the way we use energy so as to build a new energy supply-demand system. The Belt and Road Initiative would make possible the construction of the global energy internet as a global response to the current problems of the energy sector that lead to climate change. The global energy internet is based on the smart grid based on ultra-high voltage UHV transmission technology. Renewable energy sources such as wind, solar, and hydropower are usually built in far-flung areas, and an ultra-high voltage smart grid is able to transmit this power more efficiently across vast distances. Using its technology, equipment, and experience, China has the ability to promote its application in the Philippines, which has a wealth of water, high-quality wind, and solar energy resources suitable for large-scale development and utilization. So that was, in brief, the presentation of Dr. Zhao. Okay, we can move on to our second segment for this week, week of August 27 to September 2nd, with the news and developments in our region and the different views that are significant. But most of all, this week, starting September 2, as you watch this, the second day of the BRICS Summit in Xiamen, China, is ongoing, with major heads of states attending, such as President Putin of Russia, and of course, from India, Prime Minister Modi. And we have to introduce this BRICS development and the summit, a short video to bring to you, and let me read first the headline and one of the outcomes of the BRICS that is expected. BRICS Summit provides framework to overcome challenges. Okay, and that is the headline. But now let us watch this brief video while I read the BRICS development news. Okay. The upcoming BRICS Summit opened on September 2nd in Xiamen. And while you're watching the video about the 10 things you have to know about BRICS, these are the developments in Xiamen. Xiamen is China's Fujian province, expected to provide a pragmatic framework for the 5 members to overcome challenges in their economy, society, and politics, analysts said. The past decade has seen the growth of the BRICS cooperation platform into an influential international mechanism and has helped bring changes to global economic governance structures. The BRICS grouping of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa has entered its second decade since 2009. BRICS summits have been held annually. Their foreign, finance, and security ministers also meet regularly under the BRICS framework. So with this BRICS news, we also must add that new members are being invited, and lately I think these are the countries that have been invited, 5 countries: Kenya, Egypt, Mexico. I've mentioned Egypt. I do not remember the other 2. But what is the payoff from the BRICS? Well, one of the payoff is that it creates an environment for peace. And preceding the convening this September 2nd of the BRICS Summit, was 2 to 3 months of tension on the border of Bhutan and China and India, which saw China and India engage in a standoff on a border question. However, this was resolved just before the BRICS Summit and allowed the Prime Minister Modi to attend the BRICS Summit. And so this is the headline we wanted to bring to you. India, China agree to disengage troops along the borders between Bhutan and China and India. India and China have agreed on an accelerated disengagement of troops in the disputed area of Doklam, the Indian Ministry of External Affairs said in a statement Monday. India's Ministry of External Affairs stated that India and China have agreed for expeditious disengagement on the Doklam Plateau, or Donglang in the Chinese term, ending a military face-off of almost 3 months. The breakthrough comes just ahead of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to China for the Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa Summit in Xiamen. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Hua Chunying confirmed that the sides managed to reach understanding on the issue. All of India's servicemen and military equipment which illegally crossed the border were withdrawn back behind their border, Hua said at the press briefing. Okay, so now let's go to Philippines-China events, and four Filipino artists are being featured in a Beijing exhibit. This is courtesy of the Philippine News Agency, as well as the CRI. However, we were not able to capture the CRI news item. We're using the Philippine News Agency. The contemporary photography and video artworks of four Filipino artists are now on display in the Philippines Art Exhibition curated by Henry Wu at the Columbia Global Centers at Core Plaza in Haidian, Beijing. Titled In Between Spaces, the exhibition aims to use video art and photography as lens to view the Philippine contemporary art landscape through Dexter Fernandez, Paulo Vinluan, Jay Yao, and Madame Yu. Fernandez, a resident of Caloocan and currently artist in residence of Art Center ongoing in Tokyo, Japan, pays homage to Filipinos' resilience and persistence in thriving under any condition through his iconic image, Garapata, a tick turned into a caricature. On the other hand, Binluan's fascination with traditional handmade animation and modular geometric images allows him to disentangle memories of personal and public spaces. The guests also enjoyed Yao's photography and its collection that raise a poignant reflection on cultural boundlessness and the interconnectivity of each individual regardless of race and background. Yu, meanwhile, is known for her photos highlighting the beauty and chaos of the streets of Metro Manila. The 39-year-old Yu was a finalist for the Sovereign Asian Art Prize in 2010 and recipient of the Cultural Center of the Philippines' 13th Artist Award in 2009. The Philippine Art Exhibition is open to public forum or to the public from August 21 to September 1, according to the Columbia Global Center's Communication Officer, Alvin Suhan. And now, a view from about Washington think tank. This is from IPP and question the objectivity of a venerable Washington think tank. And let me read a very short segment or segments from the very long analysis. Washington Center for Security and International Studies, CSIS, is one of America's oldest and most respected think tanks focused on defense and security. As such, its activities and research are generally beyond reproach. However, on July 11, 2017, the Rushford Report posted an exposé entitled How Hanoi's Hidden Hand Helps Shape a Think Tank's Agenda in Washington. The report implies sub rosa bias in the organization of CSIS's South China Sea Conference. Moreover, some have suggested that there may be bias in the selection of research topics and interpretation of results in one of the CSIS's more public projects, the Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative, AMTI, also focused on the South China Sea. Rushford alleges that Vietnam, quote, had an important say in who has been invited to the annual CSIS maritime conferences and who hasn't, unquote. He infers this because most of the funding for the recent conferences have come from the Diplomatic Academy of Vietnam, DAV, an arm of its Ministry of Foreign Affairs. To Rushford, quote, he who pays the piper may be calling the tune, unquote. Rushford then presents evidence to back up his allegation. He reveals an email exchange between DAV, the Development Academy of Vietnam, and the CSIS principals that indicate possible bias regarding the purpose of the conference and invitations to speakers. DAV's principal contact for the conference, Tran Trong Tui, informed one of the CSIS's organizers, Murray Hebert, quote, Murray, you invited Chinese ambassador without consultation with us and now saying that you cannot disinvite him, unquote. Hebert replied, quote, our goal is not to create a forum for Chinese propaganda, but to create a credible forum that shows China's unacceptable behavior in the South China Sea, unquote. That statement seems to indicate prior prejudicial assumptions and perhaps bias on the part of the CSIS, not to mention that of the Vietnamese funders. But AMTI's research and reports seem to have a subtle slant. This is indicated by what they do, not research, and as well as by their interpretation of the results. In its seemingly obsessive focus on China until the Rushford report came out, AMTI largely neglects the lack, quote again, the lack of self-restraint, unquote, and, quote again, military activities, unquote, of other claimants like Malaysia, the Philippines, Vietnam, and Taiwan. So that gives you a view from a professional report about the CSIS Center for Strategic and International Studies based in Washington, and one of its instrumentalities, the AMTI. This is the Maritime Institute. This AMTI is often the party quoted by Filipino critics of the South China Sea situation involving the Philippines and China. Its satellite photos are used, its information and its reports are used by such critics of China as Justice Carpio, Roy Logoles, former Navyman Roy Logoles, and other critics of also the Duterte administration's independent foreign policy. Okay, and so that is our news and views for the week of August 27 to September 2nd.